And we are live. Friends, how are you doing? Rusty with you here. It is CFLW. We are live on a Thursday, just a little bit after 6 o'clock. Boy, we have a lot to talk about. Wanted to jump on and bring you this live stream for a couple of different reasons. First of all, we do have some stronger storms and some very heavy rainfall developing in this line from Marion County right through the heart of Orlando back into Osceola County as our spin is in that X situated right over Central Florida at this point in time. Then obviously we've got this orange area here with a increasing chance of tropical development as we get into the holiday weekend. And we're just going to have some fairly widespread overall impacts by this tropical system, the amount of rain it's going to bring, the widespread showers and storms, what it's going to do to coastal conditions for the beachgoers for the holiday weekend, for any boaters along our East Coast as well. So a lot to get into. Of course, as always, CFLW is sponsored by the leading law firm of Central Florida. You see the logo at the bottom of your screen. They cover the entire state of Florida. You get any kind of storm damage, be it from these thunderstorms or any tropical system. They can walk you through every step of the insurance claim process. They do offer free consultation and policy reviews. You want to support someone who supports the channel, go to leanomelaw.com if you would like more information. Good to see you guys on this Thursday. So first things first, I want to talk about the storms that are developing right now. Then we'll take a look at our cameras and kind of get into the story. First of all, a couple of stronger clusters along this line. Southern Marion County, we have a special weather statement in effect for Southern Marion County right up until the 6:30 time frame for winds of 40 miles an hour. And again, a lot of lightning beginning to develop out of this. Some of the areas that are going to be impacted include the Ocala Airport, Silver Spring Shores, Bellevue, and Denellen, basically drifting south and west at 9 miles an hour. And literally, they just extended this special weather statement as we speak. So a new special weather statement is now in effect, and that one is going to go until 6:45. So this storm is pulsing up south of Ocala, right along 75, Bellevue, down towards the Villages area, Wildwood, Leesburg, across the Turnpike 75 interchange, across 44 there as you get down towards the Inverness area out west. So these are areas with the new special weather statement. Now, main threats are still going to be wind. Don't have any real hail threat at this point in time. Again, storm motion is south at around 12. There's a lot of areas that could be impacted by this. I'll pick out a few. Lecanto in Citrus County, Inverness in Citrus County, Lake Pan, Sumterville, Sumter County area, Citrus Hills, Black Diamond, beautiful golf course. I got to play there twice in high school because I was on the golf team. Otherwise, I've never been invited back. What do we got? A lot of Inverness, Citrus Springs, Rutland area, basically the far northern and western sides of Sumter County and most of central and the eastern sides of Citrus County. So again, this line extends back down, and I'll go ahead and put this into motion for you guys just over the last half hour. Kind of drifting south and west, but really this is just kind of moving in a south, maybe even southeast fashion over Leesburg, Yahala, Mount Dora. The storm is beginning to pulse up a bit, this line over Metro Orlando and most of Orange County. So Ocoee, Gotha, Winter Garden, Windermere, Metro West. You can see the live lightning count over Conway, Belle Isle, right over the airport, Meadowwoods, down towards Lake Nona and Medical City, staying kind of south and east where it's interesting because now on the southern flank, you're pulsing up these storms. So you have the most active weather along this line, the far northern flank up in Marion County, and then the far southern flank in Osceola County. So you've got St. Cloud and a new special weather statement down towards the Holopau area. So for the St. Cloud area, this one goes, let's see, I think it's for the next 30 minutes, and it goes for winds of 50 miles an hour, including East Lake Tahoe, St. Cloud, Narcoossee, Alligator Lake, and Harmony. And then speaking of the Harmony area, this is where the newest one has just popped up. So let me bring that live so it stays on the screen. And this one is for winds at around 50 miles an hour as well. So the far south one goes until, let's see here, through 6:15. That's got to be the old one, right? Huh. Unless it hasn't popped up yet. Maybe I've got the polygon, but they accidentally hit a double click on that and put the same one up there. Obviously, this is a new one. That one's going to expire in 5 minutes. All right, but you get the idea. of what's going to be happening. So these are active areas. We've got some scattered showers over the Tampa area at this point in time as well. You know, downpours beginning to develop. Look, guys, there is a broad center of circulation right over us, right? That's going to be slowly moving off our east coast tonight and overnight, and then it's just going to bring impactful weather for the July 4th weekend. So we've got our live cameras here at CFLW. Let's go to those for you live right now. Just making sure actually we are streaming, right? Okay, so we'll start off with our live camera from the Winter Garden area. You can see a couple of raindrops in the foreground, and you can see those low-hanging clouds in the background. By the way, love to hear from you guys. If you're in the comments, drop in and say hi. If you're watching, thanks for taking a quick second and liking and subscribing to the channel if you haven't as of yet as well. But again, dark, low clouds, moisture-laden clouds, a lot of turbulence in the lower levels of the atmosphere as this system is trying to wrap up. So this is going to be a pretty common sight here on this late Thursday. You got, you know, again, little striations coming in. You've got some cooler air aloft that's kind of punching down. So you're going to get kind of these pulls in some of these lower clouds. There's just going to be a lot of texture to the low clouds here. And this is a beautiful shot from our Winter Garden camera to show you that. And this is just kind of broadly spinning around the Orlando metro area. Live look outside to the attractions area. Again, the breeze is picking up. Again, if you look there just around the gutters, you can see some of those low-hanging darker clouds. So again, kind of an ominous sky there in portions of southwest Orange County towards Lake Buena Vista. And then how about this? We're starting to see the rain really pick up just on the far side of the lake here from our Conway cam. The rain is probably going to, you know, sneak back into this area. But just before I came on, we had the same kind of low clouds that the Winter Garden camera was showing, but a little bit more obscured now by some of that rain. And again, this is going to be heavy at times, and these are going to be pulsing up, producing some pockets of heavy rainfall, a fair amount of lightning to go along with things as well. So we got to monitor the situation as we go through the day. Everything good? Okay. Just want to make sure I was still doing well. How you doing, Linda? Hey, King Kong, how are you, man? Thanks for keeping us informed. Stormy night ahead. Hey, indeed, look, stormy night, at least through sunset, okay? But a stormy weekend thanks to what's going to be developing here with this tropical disturbance. And now if you haven't been, you know, aware or been tuning in, we're now up to a 60% chance of tropical development out of this. Okay, so there's a very high-end chance that we're going to get a tropical depression or maybe even a tropical storm situated off of our East Coast, maybe Georgia's coastline as we get into Saturday. The models have really ramped up the opportunity for that to occur. All right. Now, I want to talk about, before I go too far into the forecast as far as that goes, is that at this point in time, we do have some flood advisories that I want to talk about. Now, I can finally bring up flood advisories, which is great. So we have a flood advisory in effect right now for Flagler County until 6:30, right? So again, 1 to 2 inches of rain, and you guys can just read this with me. Additional rain will result in some minor flooding. I'm going to bring back on the radar here, might as well, since we're talking about it. So you can see some of the areas of flooding there, right? And the reason why is, again, you've just had really slow moving showers. So any county that you see in this light green, there is a flood advisory currently in effect. For Marion County, the flood advisory is in effect, looks like till 6:15. So we've only got 2 more minutes with that one. 1 to 2 inches, an additional 1 to 2. Look, it's not going to be 6 or 7 inches of rain today, but 2 to 4 inches of rain is absolutely possible. Again, everything is just moving so slow because our center of circulation is literally right here. And that's why if you live in the Orlando metro, look, it doesn't matter. Actually, if you live anywhere in Central Florida and you can kind of peek outside, there's a lot of lighting, so I don't want you to go out, but if you can peek outside, you're probably going to notice that there is a very slow spin with a lot of this activity. And I'll show you guys the satellite data coming up. For the Orlando area, the flood advisory looks like this. You've got, well, we got a special weather statement. But let's do this one. Flood advisory. This one goes until 8 o'clock. Okay. So flooding caused by excessive rainfall for Orange and Seminole counties until 8 o'clock. Minor flooding, so Seminole County is included in this. Minor flooding in low-lying and poor drainage areas. We've had 2 to 3.5 inches of rain. I just want to make sure it's the right date. Yep, everything's good, up to date. 2 to 3.5 inches of rain, an additional 2 to 3 inches. So this is a spot, you know, if you high end it, you get up to about 6 inches of rain. 4 to 6, though, in some areas of both Seminole and Orange counties. In Osceola County, you got a flood advisory for you right now till 7:45. Again, minor flooding. Looks like the grand total there is going to be 2 to 4.5 inches of rain. And it is area dependent, but again, this is not moving very much with additional showers that are going to be spinning in. Guys, this is not like a typical sea breeze where we're going to watch the sea breeze collision. We're going to watch for some areas of really heavy rainfall, and then it's all just going to go away. Because of this lift in the atmosphere by this spin that's over us right now, we are in store for a very, very wet, stormy forecast indeed. All right, bring up the infrared satellite imagery here. For some reason, my visible satellite imagery went down, but that's okay. But you can see here from the broader perspective, this spin right there. Hey, Bacon Rage, how are you doing? Thunder booming in Leesburg. Appreciate you. Blue Goose is in the house. Hi, Linda. Good to see everyone. Appreciate you guys jumping in the chat. I do appreciate that interaction. You want to ask me a quick question, feel free to do that. Thanks for tuning in for you guys as well. I heard, let's see here. I want to go back over to our cameras, because we'll probably potentially even see a little bit of lightning developing out of this real quickly as well. So this is a live look to Winter Garden. Now we are looking off towards the west in this camera, right? So we're looking back kind of to northern sides of the northwest side of Orange County and into Lake County. Now these clouds are actually, let me get on this side of the map. So these clouds are, you're looking north here, west, south. These clouds are actually spinning in. So as we've gone through just the beginning of this live stream, and I was watching this camera earlier, all of these clouds are sneaking their way into frame. And again, a lot of texture, a lot of low level moisture with this, a lot of, instability and, spin in the atmosphere here, which is going to produce, again, some what I call SLCs. You're going to see some scary looking clouds out there from time to time in association with this. Here's the live look to Conway, and again, this rain is moving in, and if you live in the downtown Orlando area, that is going to be a sight that you're going to see in a lot of areas at this point in time, where we're going to just start to see it get wetter here, and again, locally heavy rain. We have the flood advisories that are in effect, and they're in effect for a reason right now, because again, we have the opportunity to see some very significant rainfall in some areas here, and a new special weather statement just issued for the southern sides of the Orlando metro area. So I'll highlight that coming up in just a second for you guys as well. Again, raining pretty heavily there in that spot at this point in time. Hey Jaden, how are you? Good to see you. Are you expecting severe storms like tornadoes out of this rotation? It's a not a big chance, but it's not zero. Okay, would not expect there to be a lot. Now, what we could end up getting here is a little bit in the way of maybe some, the potential at least to get maybe some water spouts coming off the coastline. That is not out of the question to see potentially a water spout or two. But there's not, as these showers have moved in, there's actually not a ton of wind right now. And everything is moving very, very slowly, but you can see that rain is really beginning to move back into the frame here. So we'll stay with this camera. Again, if you guys are just tuning in, wanted to jump on live for you here. I was actually already planning to do a scheduled live stream at 7 o'clock tonight to kind of just go over everything that I've been looking at for the holiday weekend, the impacts I expected here in Central Florida. And look, so many of us want to be out and about and enjoy the holiday weekend and be outdoors and enjoy what Florida has to offer. Maybe we're heading to the beaches, but with this tropical area right over us, there's the opportunity that we're going to have excessive rainfall. We're going to have widespread rain and storms. I mean, it's going to be one of those things where I think it's going to continue right through Sunday. It's not as if it's going to get much better for us here, for the holiday weekend at all. Maybe slightly improving on Sunday if the system develops and pulls a little bit farther to the north and to the west. But, what you're seeing this afternoon, my friends, probably you need to get prepared for seeing a lot of that, relatively speaking. Now, look, everyone is different, right, as far as what they can tolerate for outdoor plans. And if you're local, that's one thing. But for those folks who are coming in, how is this going to impact their beach going for the weekend or the attractions or, anything like that? There's a lot of different things that are going on. And that's totally up to you. I never give vacation advice because everyone has, different tolerances when it comes to weather and all of that. But it's just one of those things where I expect impactful weather for the weekend where it's going to impact plans. And so I wanted to bring you guys up to speed on everything that I've been looking at. Back over to the winter garden camera, then we'll get back into the story. Again, look at those low clouds. Look at all of that. Linda, for the fireworks tomorrow, okay, but more than normal, right? And again, what a shot here from this winter garden camera. Again, you can see the leading edge. So this is spinning in from north to south or kind of northwest to southeast, and you can see how low hanging those clouds are. If there was a more low level wind, I would be more concerned about spinning up a brief tornado with this. There's not a lot in the low level wind field to generate that, but it is something I will continue to monitor. But it's a very interesting sky nonetheless there as well. All right, so let me get you back out to our weather computer. It's going to take me just 1 second. I was doing a little bit of updating behind the scenes while we were looking at the camera, so appreciate you guys sticking with me. That's the wrong button. And by the way, if you see that, I apologize. If you see that, that is not an actual system. That is a test system. I don't know why they still do tests this time of the year when we've got active things going on, but it's kind of a bane of my existence. All right, so back over to the live radar here. We have the new special weather statement, and it does include the southern sides of the metro Orlando area and then sneaking into Osceola County, including Kissimmee. Now, this has come up a notch, okay? So now we have winds of 55 miles an hour. We're really close to seeing severe thunderstorm criteria out of this, right? All you got to do is get to 60 and you've got yourself a severe thunderstorm. This goes until 6:45. Here is the actual statement from the National Weather Service. Strong thunderstorm impacting southwestern Orange, northern Osceola counties through 6:45. You've got Hunters Creek, Kissimmee, again, drifting southwest at 5 miles an hour, winds of 50 to 55. And again, MCO is included in this. Could you imagine wanting to get out for the holiday weekend and you've got to deal with that? Let me bring on as well current wind gusts. We'll see if we got that. We got a 21 at MCO. But again, there's not, outside of where the thunderstorms are getting nasty, the winds aren't really that significant. Now let me see if what I was doing behind the scenes allowed us to get back our visible satellite data. No, it just must be. I wonder though if I do this. Doesn't look like it. All right. Anywho, the good news is we don't have to worry about it too much. There was a severe thunderstorm warning up in Lake County as well. So you can see all of the rain, showers over Sharps, Cocoa Merritt Island, Satellite Beach. And again, all this is kind of rotating and spinning off towards the east, but this line has developed and become on the stronger side as well. And I know that this northern area, they have it drifting south and west into Citrus County, but most of this line is kind of sneaking more south and kind of building south-southeast with maybe some individual cells pulling off to the south. But again, right here in the Orlando metro area, it's very wet. It's very stormy at the hour as well. And this is going to continue, my friends. Now, if you're just tuning in, the actual X from the National Hurricane Center for where they're going to be monitoring potential development is right over Central Florida, right? So all of this is rotating in a counterclockwise around that X. If I switch over to composite radar here, a little bit easier to see, and loop that up for the last 2 hours for you, you can see that broad spin. All right. And again, a lot of lift in the atmosphere for you guys as well. Yeah, Linda, look, it is not going to be a completely dry forecast. I can't tell you it's going to be completely dry until the earliest Sunday night. Again, the 4th, Saturday and Sunday, wet, stormy, going to get windier, especially along the coastline. All right. So let me show you how that's going to play out here with a couple of different products. First of all, you notice that all of our area is under a threat for excessive rainfall for today. Okay, so we already took a look at some flood advisories that are in effect, and in some spots they were talking at the high end getting up to 6 inches of rain today. All right, so that would be situation. We do have some local storm reports to look at here. I noticed those just before I came on as well. So let's take a look at those. This is going to be up in St. Johns and Putnam counties, but there's 2 inches of rain there. There's 4 inches of rain 2 miles north of Spuds. Heck yeah. 4 inches of rain in an hour in Spuds. So you get the idea that some of this has been very heavy at times. Now, as far as wind goes, of course, we can take a look at the velocity product here. So, you know, Linda asked about any rotation. And again, great to see you guys. Thanks for taking a quick second and hitting the like button for me right now as well. I see pockets of heavier wind, and there is a little bit of circulation here. There's no doubt about that. But nothing is very wrapped up or tight at this point in time. And again, with the low-level wind field being very weak, I wouldn't expect it. Oops. Here we go. So again, with this product, I can look at the winds in the atmosphere through the radar. Look at all that lightning between Harmony and Holopau right now. That's a heck of a lot of lightning. That storm is really pulsing up right now. What's interesting is that they actually dropped. They dropped the special weather statements there. So the special weather statement, and you can see the leading edge of this is now building into Hunters Creek, Kissimmee, and we'll be tracking down I-4. So Celebration, Campbell, Champions Gate. That's the new special weather statement that just got issued. All right, the storm's not even there yet, but you can see it kind of bowing back down. Let's check out that one. Strong thunderstorm through 7 o'clock, 50 to 55 mile an hour winds, very gusty outflow. Yep. I mean, you're going to feel it. That outflow from the leading edge of that storm is going to slap, you know, the Celebration area, Kissimmee, Campbell, Four Corners, Champions Gate. You'll feel it. There's no doubt about it. See how that one's moving. Oh, wow. Is there really a little TVS right there? Interesting. All right. That is a high tornado vortex signature. Is that real? Let's see here. We got to take a look at that real quick, guys. Do this real quick. Where are you, man? Gotta first make sure those are showing up. Okay, they are. There you are. Okay, so I'm switching over to the terminal Doppler out of Orlando. Just to see if there's any spin where we had that vortex signature. don't really see anything. Could have just been a false return from the algorithm. That storm's headed to Campbell. Whatever that is headed to Campbell, but it's all moving so slow. But look, we talked about, I told you there's a lot of instability here and just perturbations and spin ups. It's not out of the question. There's just a lot of juice right now with this developing system right over us. And you can clearly see, again, you have a lot of red and green patches here, rather than one solid light of green and one solid light of red. Green means that the wind is moving towards the radar. Red means that it's moving away. Typically, with like a sea breeze, you would see a line or a line of storms coming in where it's all one direction, and then behind it, it's all one direction as the storm passes by. Here, there's just a lot of little areas, but thankfully, I don't see high winds. And that's the biggest thing. I wanted to see if there's any high winds out of this spot right here, but I don't see it. So let's go back over to the Melbourne radar then. Hey, Palm Bay Jacks fan, how you doing? More rain, my friend. Good chance for showers and storms, no doubt about it. Appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate the question. Look, guys, this is just going to be one of those impactful situations for us here for the time being. And I'm going to get to the models here in just 1 second. I got sidetracked because of what I saw there. But, before we go too much farther, I got to get you back out to our cameras. This is Winter Garden. And again, another shot there where the low-level clouds are quite interesting, to say the least, right? One of those very interesting low-level cloud situations. And again, a lot of spin in the atmosphere. It's going to be a situation to kind of keep an eye out for us here, over the next couple of days. Now, this circulation will eventually move offshore, and then it'll be more about just the moisture that's going to be coming back into the area. But again, just a really ominous looking sky there. Conway, we had good showers move through. The interesting thing is that Conway is kind of in the middle of it or just off towards the east. And Winter Garden is an area that this all is kind of feeding around right now. And again, you can see that. We're looking off into the horizon. You can see those clouds. To the right-hand side of your screen is north. To the left-hand side of your screen is south. And you can see everything just kind of rotating into that area as we speak. And then back over to the Disney camera. If you look up again above that tree, you can see a lot of those clouds moving back in. Now, it's really yet to rain at the cameras in Winter Garden and in our Lake Buena Vista attractions area. By the way, this camera, again, is just 1 mile from the Magic Kingdom, and it is looking back towards the Magic Kingdom property and Epcot and Disney and, all of those areas. So if you have anyone at the attractions, it's getting a little bit of ominous sky out there right now. Haven't noted any lightning so far there in Lake Buena Vista, but again, everything building south and west should probably allow some of that activity to get a little bit closer to the attractions here in the next hour or so. All right. So let's reset the scene with what's currently happening right now. So again, we still have a special weather statement. It's going to go for the next 11 minutes till 6:45, and this mainly includes northern Sumter County and a good portion of central and eastern sides of Citrus County. Winds are 40 miles an hour there, all right? So not as strong, but still could knock around some unsecured objects, could take down a couple of tree limbs, but typically speaking, 40-mile-an-hour winds will do okay, but a rowdy storm regardless. Really, the intensity of the rain is higher with the kind of the next part of this line, and that's from Leesburg to Yahala there in Lake County, Astatula. This is drifting down towards the Turnpike. The Turnpike is 91 on the map, so again, this is all moving south and west. So all of this is going to blanket the Turnpike in Lake County. Could you imagine taking that drive, trying to get to 27, and you got to deal with that? Now, my radar is picking up a couple of hail signatures. They all look to be pretty weak. Could there be some embedded hail? It's a possibility. Significant? Probably not. Oakland, Winter Garden, Ocoee, up to 429, south of Popka, on over towards the Maitland area, Lockhart. This is Lake Apopka, very heavy rain and storms there. So the camera that we have in Winter Garden is a little bit south of the Turnpike and looking this way. And again, All of this should be moving across that camera shortly. So we're going to get a good view of this activity coming into the far west sides of Orange County. Very heavy rain for basically all of northern and western Orange County at this point in time. Again, it's drying out a little bit. Sanford, Lake Mary, Winter Springs, on over towards Winter Park and Baldwin Park and Oviedo. Some light shower activity there. Here's Conway where our camera is, but again, we're looking east. So we're looking back to more moderate rain, if anything else, across the 417. Then you pick up another area of some exceptional rain and wind. Speaking of the winds, bring back on those wind gusts like this and take a look at this one. Again, 55-mile-an-hour winds. Orlando, Kissimmee, Buenaventura Lakes, OIA, and West Lake Toho. That one goes until 6:45. Again, you know, knocking down tree limbs, blowing around unsecured objects. And then we pick up that line, and this is probably the area with the strongest winds right now, right over here. And again, this one's headed towards Campbell. Kind of the leading edge of this will be headed into the Loftman area, Champions Gate. So the time of arrival there, again, it's about southwest at 5. So you're looking at kind of right at the top of the hour, getting into that Loftman, Champions Gate area. Campbell a little bit earlier. Celebration, 192 there. It's on the doorstep of I-4. Again, not going to enjoy that. Scattered rain over here. This thunderstorm is weakening a bit. But now the rain is right over the radar site, so there's a little bit of clustering there as well. We picked up a few more thunderstorms in the Bradenton, Sarasota area. Not a lot of wind. South Tampa has some rain. Little shower over the Palm Harbor area. Dunedin and Clearwater right across 19 and 60. And again, all of this will just continue to rotate through the area here. So what it looks like over the last couple of hours. Got the winds on there for you as well. Again, not a lot. If you guys have any specific questions about the forecast, let me know in the comments section below. While you're down there, thanks for taking a quick second. Thanks for liking and subscribing. Thank you for getting us to more than 1,000 subscribers. I really appreciate that. We need to continue to grow. Please help us out with that. Let family and friends know if they don't know anything about the channel. By liking, by subscribing, by dropping a comment in, you help the interaction of the channel, and the YouTube algorithm likes that, and they will recommend this channel to folks who don't even know that we exist. You can really start to see that some of this spin is beginning to work its way off of the East Coast at this point in time. You're picking up additional heavy rain out here, and it's beginning to move back up to the north. Let me bring on, as an exercise here, let's bring on our winds out of the surface and see what we've got wind-wise out of the surface. So at the hour, we still have basically the spin here. So, you know, you get to DeLand, and they've got a southwest wind now, even though that was saying more southeast. The Cape has a southeast wind. Palm Bay has a west wind. Orlando, and again, these are going to be influenced by some of these storms. You know, Tampa should have a westerly component to their breeze, and they do, okay? But this will all kind of be rotating back in. And if you live along the East Coast and you see some showers and storms off the coastline, that could all be moving back into your area as well. All right, so let me show you what the HRRR model is going to do. And again, ignore that area as it's just a test. I can take that off momentarily. One of the most annoying things ever. All right, let me bring up the HRRR model. It's a high resolution rapid refresh. Great short-term model, updates hourly, right? And will take us out until the afternoon hours of Saturday. And of course, as soon as I hit that, it pops back on because I have the tropical layer on everywhere. All right, so let's talk about how this is going to play. Again, we're up to a 60% chance of development in the next 7 days, and it's really in like the next 3 or 4, and they've upped the 48-hour likelihood of development to 30%. A hurricane reconnaissance aircraft is scheduled to investigate this area tomorrow, as long as it's kind of holding together, and more than likely it's going to. So let me bring on our model timeline as well, and you guys can walk through this with me. Now, both the HER model and the European model developed something in this area late Saturday, early on Sunday. Really, actually, could even be as early as late Friday, but sometime in that late Friday, probably Saturday time frame, maybe at the latest early on Sunday. And you can clearly see that spin. Now, in the short term, as this is moving north and to the east, we're still going to have a lot of southwest winds feeding into this. But ultimately, once the center gets north of our area, we're going to turn our winds back more out of the north and even northeast, okay? And that means that by the end of the weekend, we're going to have an onshore wind along our area beaches. Not fantastic news for the beachgoers or for the boaters who want to get out in the water, right? First of all, you have to deal with the squalls. You have to deal with the windy conditions, but it's also going to be kicking up sea conditions. Now, at this point in time, the Weather Service offices, Jacksonville, Melbourne, Miami, anywhere up and down our East Coast, they haven't issued any marine advisories as of yet. That will probably start to get back into the forecast beginning tomorrow. Beach statements that will probably include rip current risk and potential erosion and higher than normal tides, all coming along with this potential tropical development area. Now, again, for interior locations, it's just waves of rain and storms. This is a forecast where I can't sit here and tell you you're going to get a shower at 4 o'clock tomorrow, and then it's going to be dry for the fireworks at 8 o'clock. There's just a lot of tropical moisture in play, leading to a very high likelihood of rain and storms, 80 to 90% chance for storms over the next several days. Before we go any farther, there's the rain moving into Winter Garden right now. And again, if you live on the west side, where's the center of that possible storm at? Right over Orlando right now, Palm Bay Jags fan. The center of circulation is actually inland right now. We'll be moving off of the East Coast tonight and then getting a little bit stronger, obviously, when it's in the exposed waters of the western side of the Atlantic. But again, you can see those clouds spitting in, those low clouds, kind of gnarly looking, right? Just a really, call them SLCs. You got those scary looking clouds up there. But even then here, I don't see a lot of rapid spin, right? And that's what we would, get if we were going to potentially produce a small brief tornado out of this. Even though there's broad inherent spin, I don't see the conditions at this point in time to drop down generally a funnel cloud. I have to keep an eye on it. There could be some lowerings here, right? Could be a little bit coming back down, some striations and some cooler air aloft. That's all a possibility. But, this is not, at least right now, an environment where I think, oh man, we got to really watch out for some spin ups here in the Orlando metro area. Now, down the road overnight, as this pulls offshore, could it produce a couple of maybe water spouts along the nearshore waters and then move off the coast because the movement will be west to east? It's a possibility, right? Land friction, water friction difference getting off the coastline tends to aid in some of that spin up in rotation that's inherent out there. Hey, Chessie, how you doing? Appreciate you coming in. Oh, yeah, Linda, yeah, I don't expect anything to develop over land. They typically don't. The center of circulation has to get offshore. Now, I want to be clear, though, this is still a very broad, weak system, all right? Nothing more than that at this point in time. But the forecast and the probability is that within the next 48 hours, we get a tropical depression, okay? And potentially even a tropical storm. And that would be named Chantal. Now, that's what it looks like on the HER rain. And you can clearly see the spin is right here. And by the way, the European model is right on this as well. I just did a forecast video on the Media Mundo channel that I do, and we looked at the European model, and it had it developing here. As a matter of fact, the European model's chance of development for a tropical depression was 80 to 90%. All right. Now let's take a look at the winds in association with this. And take off the area because this is a little bit easier to see. Yes, I would like you to loop. So this is the HRRR model with winds. All right, surface winds, sustained, not gusts. It's pretty simple to see what the solution is out of this by Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock. All right, we're not talking about, next week. We're talking about within 48 hours getting a tropical depression or even a tropical storm. All right, so there's the spin right there. Now, I can query this. So when we get here, oh, it is on. We do have sustained winds that would support a tropical storm, all right? So on the northern and the northwest side, you got 39-mile-an-hour winds, you got yourself a tropical storm. It's weaker here on the latest HER, right? And maybe it's still elongated enough where they still classify it as a tropical depression, but we are picking up some winds that would be tropical storm strength. And again, this is by Saturday afternoon. Now, along the coast, right, you're just gonna have sustained winds. You know, it's not gonna be great. You know, sustained winds Saturday afternoon, 20 miles an hour, right down St. John's, Flagler County, Daytona Beach, Ponce Inlet, Wilbur by the Sea, Ormond Beach, sustained winds along the coast, Edgewater, Oak Hill, Brevard County, might be a little bit spottier. There's Satellite Beach, Merritt Island, potentially a little bit weaker winds here, but you know, is that just briefly, right? Because if I go back in time a little bit earlier, where are we here? This is 4 a.m. and you still got 20+ mile-an-hour winds. And by the way, it's going to be rough in the northern Bahamas as well. I can also bring on, again, your wind arrows. So you just got to get an idea of the vector or how this is going to play out. Got my Lean Law tumbler, by the way, as well. Still have the Publix Diet Green Tea. By the way, if you didn't tune into yesterday's Media Mundo channel, I fought a box cutter yesterday, and the box cutter won. I hadn't bled that much in a while. It was not pretty. I'm good, I'm fine, but it took a while to get the bleeding to stop, and thought I might have lost a fingertip. So advice, don't put your finger between yourself, what you're cutting in a box cutter, because it can end up like this. But in all seriousness, you can see how this wraps up, right? Now again, in the short term, the winds are going to be out of the southwest, but by Saturday afternoon, the winds are out of the due north. So you have a complete change in the wind direction along the East Coast, right? And this is important for boaters and beachgoers and all of that. So, you know, tomorrow on the 4th, the wind should mainly still be offshore, feeding into the south side of the developing area of low pressure. On the far northern coastline, Jacksonville, St. Augustine, Palm Coast, by the end of tomorrow, we start to pick up a bit of a south wind. But then notice as that begins to wrap up, you get stronger counterclockwise circulation, and all of us along the East Coast will have a northerly component to the wind by the afternoon hours of Saturday, all right? For the West Coast, it might be a little bit more of an offshore, it could be kind of more north-northeast, right? Still pulling water away from Cedar Key and the Nature Coast, Crystal River, Homosassa Springs, back down towards the St. Pete area, Clearwater, Tampa. You know, again, more kind of paralleling the coastline, but maybe even a bit of an offshore component there as well. Could even have still a bit of a west wind there in Sarasota. But, you know, ultimately, again, the biggest thing is just the appreciable impacts to our forecast. Is this going to be a strong, strong system? I don't believe it is going to be, right? Could it potentially wrap up a little bit more? Now, the European model has this moving inland over South Carolina, all right? And then moving across the Carolinas and re-emerging back into the Atlantic, right? The GFS model basically trundles it up in a much weaker fashion across the Carolina coast and then pushes it east towards Bermuda. None of them bring it back over the state, all right? I haven't seen anything try and what we call retrograde or move it back to the west. Could it drift a little bit north and west as kind of a far west solution? Yes, but I want to be clear at this point in time, and look, there's still a lot of it, you know, uncertainty to this. I don't expect this to wrap up, stall, and then push back towards our East Coast. It's going to be close enough where, again, the boat and the beach conditions are going to be going downhill fairly extensively. Now, We're a little bit better off than Georgia and the Carolinas, from OBX to Charleston and Myrtle Beach and Savannah and places like that, but we're not much better off. Hey, Therese, how you doing? How's it going in Kissimmee? You getting some pretty good wins there? I would imagine you would be at this point in time. So we can back over to the live radar here. Spring back on. So we still have our special weather statement for Celebration, Campbell, Champions Gate, Four Corners for the next 10 minutes until 7 o'clock. By the way, you guys see your live data scrolling on the bottom of your screen right here. Updated real-time conditions in your area. A lot of different cities across Central Florida being represented there. These are your current temperatures, which are in the 70s and 80s. And these are your wind gusts. Again, some thunderstorms will produce some 40 to 50 mile an hour winds. Outside of that, winds will probably be gusting to around 20. Check out the lightning data. Make sure we get that back on. And let's go back to our cameras. Here's Winter Garden. So the rain has moved into Winter Garden in the western side of Orange County. Therese, just dark and cloudy with some thunder. I hear you. That's a pretty common sight right now. And this is a pretty common sight with these line of showers and storms. So now the rain has really picked up. It's a blinding rain here in Winter Garden. Again, if there was to be any little spin up in this, you wouldn't even see it anyway. But the wind profile field just isn't significant enough to cause that at this point in time. But tropical downpours, right? This is what we typically see with tropical systems, just good downpours coming in. But there's also plenty of instability as well, which is why we're picking up some of those lightning strikes at the hour as well. Again, you know, it's just one of those things that we need to be prepared for, because I don't expect the forecast to change much through Sunday. So all of the holiday weekend, we're going to have ample opportunities for waves of showers and storms, for the opportunity to show some very, very good quality moisture and some heavier rainfall. We already have some flood advisories in effect at this point in time as well. You know, so this is producing some locally heavy rainfall. We'll take a look at those flood advisories coming up in just a minute for you guys. This is Conway, so it's improved again with these showers moving south and west. In this camera looking to the east, we're actually seeing a little bit of filtered sunshine as we look towards the east coast. Now earlier, we did have some heavy rain move across this area, but it's lightened back up. So let's see what's happening in Disney right now. The showers have yet to fully reach that area. There's a little bit of rain if you take a look at the foreground there on the gutter, just a few showers there. But again, kind of what we saw in Winter Garden about 20 minutes ago is the clouds that are moving back into, you know, portions of the Lake Buena Vista area. So this is all spiraling in, basically dropping down the 429, right? So what we just saw happening in Winter Garden is likely to occur over Lake Buena Vista. So if you know anyone who's at the attractions or you want to head out there yourself for the evening fireworks, at least in the short term, more than likely this weather is going to be sneaking back down towards the Lake Buena Vista area. All right. I want to talk real quick as well about the advisories that are currently into play. It might take just a second for them to pop up. Amy, what do you expect for Ormond Beach? Amy, you know, it's going to be daily dependent, but anywhere in Central Florida, especially interior East Coast, should be prepared for wet and stormy days, not just in the afternoon, but passing tropical downpours, locally heavy rain along the immediate coast. The wind's going to be kicking up. Surf and sea conditions are going to be elevated. More than likely, we'll get potentially some red flags flying at area beaches. We'll certainly get some beach statements of some kind to mention the rip current risk and the potential for some normal than higher tides, and maybe even some coastal beach erosion as well. I mean, again, the wind field isn't going to be crazy high, but I do expect starting tomorrow to start to see winds sustained along the coast of right around 20 miles an hour. Initially, there'll be offshore winds, but beginning on Saturday, there'll be more paralleling the coastline coming in from north to south. But I appreciate Jamie asking the question. Hope that answered that for you in short order. Look, again, I mentioned it earlier. This is just one of those forecasts where it's going to be hard for me to say, look, you're going to get a shower at 4 o'clock and then you'll be dry in the evening hours for like the fireworks tomorrow. There's just an abundant amount of tropical moisture that is going to be elevating our storm chances to the 80 to 90% category. Now, the areas in light green, these are all flood advisories that are currently into play. So when we look at this, you've got until 7:15 now, and this is going to be for portions of Marion County. And 1 to 2.5 have already fallen, another 1/2 inch to 1 inch. So 1.5 to 3.5 inches in some spots up in Marion County. You have flood advisories in effect for a lot of other areas. You've got Seminole, you've got Orange County. So the flood advisory for this one, including Orange County, is going to be for 1.5 to 2.5 with an additional 2 to 3. So, again, a fair amount of Orange County. You're looking at 2.5 to 6 inches of rain as a possibility, which is why we have these flood advisories. This one goes in effect until 8:15. The other one, which is farther north, which includes portions of Seminole County, goes until 8 o'clock, and that is going to be for 2 to 3.5 inches of rain that have already fallen, and then an additional 2 to 3. So potentially 4 to 6.5 inches of rain. A new flood advisory has just been issued for Brevard County. It's for portions of Brevard and Osceola till 7:45. Minor flooding, again, when we total it out, 3.5 to 6.5 inches of rain. This is the environment that we're in, friends. Locally heavy downpours, some wind, but just a lot of tropical moisture in play. For the rest of Osceola County, that's the special weather statement. Let's see the flood advisories here. For the Osceola County one by itself for 7:45, it is 2.5 to 4.5 inches of rain. And again, that it does include southern sides of Orlando. So listen, the flood advisories are going to populate on my map county by county, but ultimately they're like polygons of severe thunderstorm warnings or special weather statements. It's not the entire county, and some of them could overlap, which is why, when I bring up this list, you'll see a couple of flood advisories for Osceola County. One is for one part of the county, the other is for another part of the county as well. You got it, Amy. My pleasure. Again, Linda, here's what I'm doing. We are going forward. Look, we're not going anywhere, because obviously this is my busy season, so we can't go too far. But for this weekend, we're not. But we're planning on trying to do everything that we want to do, okay? But weather could impact us, and we're fully aware of that. So we're still planning the barbecue, still planning to get outdoors and enjoy things. Generally speaking, the morning hours will be drier. But is it going to be completely dry? Absolutely not, right? This system that's developing over our head and moving off towards the east could absolutely, bring scattered showers in the morning, which with the heat of the day will pulse up a little bit. Now, is there a potential that by the time Sunday rolls around and this system is far enough away by a couple hundred miles and we're on the slightly drier west side, that we dry out a bit? Absolutely. If I had to place a token on the driest of the next 3 days, I would say Sunday. Tomorrow, I think, is going to be pretty darn wet. Saturday is going to be pretty wet and stormy and windy. Hopefully by Sunday, we begin to dry out a little bit as this system wraps up. And again, as long as it doesn't try and beeline back to us, which nothing is showing it does, we should ultimately, begin to dry out from there on out. I talked you into it. First of all, look, you got to try and have a barbecue over 4th of July weekend. You got to at least be invited to one or be a part of one or grab a pack of hot dogs at the very least. You just got to. I feel like it's slightly un-American if you don't. You got to have the opportunity, right? Then secondly, if you got to deal with some storms, you deal with some storms, you get out of the lightning, and hopefully you just don't have a washout, right? What I'm hoping for, friends, is despite the fact that we've got very high rain chances the next several days, we don't have a full washout of any one day, and certainly for the fireworks for tomorrow afternoon and evening, right? Some folks are probably waiting to fire them off later tonight. Right now, that's not a go for most of the Orlando metro area, Again, improving up in Volusia County at the hour. We haven't had a ton of rain in Tampa here lately. We've had a couple of scattered showers over St. Pete and Tampa, but nothing too significant there. The good news is the special weather statement up here in eastern Citrus and northern Sumter County has been allowed to expire as we roll into the 7 o'clock hour. Still some pockets of heavy rain, Lake Panover, Inverness, and Lecanto. Again, those SLCs, those scary looking clouds out there from time to time. Got some rain right over the radar site here in Brevard County, so places like Suntree and Viera North and Indian Harbor Beach, all with some passing showers. This is an environment where sure, we could pop off a severe thunderstorm warning, but generally speaking, it's about the coverage of rain and storms and tropical downpours rather than the intensity and how that's going to impact your plans. All right. So I want to make sure I emphasize that point, that I'm not sitting here and saying, goodness gracious, the 4th and Saturday and Sunday, we are going to have numerous severe thunderstorms with 70-mile-an-hour winds, and tornado threats and all that. That's not the biggest threat. The biggest is the impact to you wanting to be outside and the fact that a lot of this is likely to develop, storms that get going enough to produce special weather statements, maybe an isolated severe thunderstorm warning, but also the opportunity to just really dampen the parade out there. This is the risk from the SPC for today. You notice that we're just in the light green, which is just your general thunderstorm risk. Excuse me. That's for today, which is just your general thunderstorm risk. That's tomorrow, which is just your general thunderstorm risk. And again, the tropical area will come on. And then for Sunday, your general thunderstorm risk. I promised you, I cycled through the next 3 days and they haven't changed. All right. So it's just a general thunderstorm risk. And again, that ridiculous icon behind me, please ignore. Aha. The visible satellite imagery has returned. Let's see how much of it we get. A little bit. So I could do this as well. Now, guys, join me for these live streams. Well, it looks like the IR imagery is still down because I brought up what's called the sandwich product, which allows us to show both, but we're not getting it. But there you go. I mean, again, not significant, but a bit of a spin. Not a lot of lift in the atmosphere as well. That's what it looks like on the visible satellite imagery here at the point in time. And look at this, by the way, too. See if I can point it out. Look at that line leading ahead of that edge that's getting stronger. It's a really interesting feature, too. Hey, Sean, how you doing? The chance of Chantal? Decent. I think we're at about an 80% chance right now for a tropical depression. I think it's going to be really close to get to a tropical storm. But I would put it at 50-50. Yeah. Remember, 35, you got yourself a tropical depression. 40, and again, this is what the Hurricane Center, it's 34 and 39, but they're always going to go by 5-mile-an-hour increments. So 35 tropical depression, 40 tropical storm. It's not going to take much to get it to a tropical storm. So I think there's a pretty good likelihood that we get Chantal out of this. Yep. No doubt about it. Let's go back over to our cameras and then I'll take some questions from you guys. So if you have one, throw her in the old comment section below. So the shower, the storm, good rumbles of thunder have moved through the Winter Garden area. There's still some rain, and you can see that, but also obviously too, we're getting a little bit in the way of some breaks in those clouds. Again, these storms are significant, but they're not the most robust as far as producing winds of over 50 miles an hour in most areas. But the locally heavy rainfall is an issue. Again, there's a lot of areas of the central side of the state that are under flood advisories at this point in time. Metro Orlando is included in that. Northern sides of Osceola County, portions of Brevard County, all under different kinds of flood advisories. And the Weather Service is saying that totally we could end up with maybe 6 inches of rain, which reminds me to show you guys the rainfall totals as well. Now, we're beginning to clear out the farther east that we go in the short term. And this is a great story of how I expect at least tomorrow and Saturday to play out, where part of the area looks like this, and at the same part in time, part of the area looks like this. But overall, your rain chance is going to be 80 to 90% both tomorrow and Saturday. Okay? And again, I think it's going to close in for some of the afternoon and early evening plans. Could fireworks displays be impacted at least or delayed, for a little bit while we let the storms move away? Absolutely. Is it going to completely dry out right at sunset as we would typically see with a sea breeze pattern and not having this spin overhead? It's not going to. It's not going to. It's going to be more, it wouldn't surprise me if, up until midnight or beyond, there's at least some activity each day just with this system nearby. Now, again, we've also been able to drop the special weather statement here, which is great news, but there's still a lot of lightning in play here on the leading edge of this, which again, by the way, is kind of drifting south to southwest. So areas kind of in the impact zone. I think this is a great thing to do actually here. Let's do this. Now, the good news is it's getting into more rural Sumter, more rural southern sides of Lake County. But as it gets down into here, it's going to be a little bit more where we got a couple of extra spots to talk about here. So let's bring on our manual tracking. Yes, please. Thank you. And again, I have to get out wide enough to draw this. All right, so here we go. Oh, come on. Let's try it now. There we go. No? You didn't like that either? Well, maybe it's not going to let me. If I ask nicely? Pretty pleased with the cherry on top? That's the one I'm not sure about. All right. Well, forget the fact that we were going to manually track that. You get the idea. Mascot, Claremont, 429, Hamlin, Western Way, Lake Buena Vista, as I've mentioned, right? Earlier, that storm over Winter Garden, now moving down towards Lake Buena Vista. So all of those scary looking clouds and dark clouds are beginning to get over Windermere in the Lake Butler area in Dr. Phillips. Again, it's not a significant storm, but a lot of low spinning clouds out there for you right now, which will continue to track their way south into the southwest. So filling in Lake County, Sumter County, back building into Polk County, then moving down into rest of Citrus County, northern sides of Hernando County. Not going to be as significant here as far as their impacts, but more heavier rain as well. Are you where the X is on the map? Great question, Lou, and thank you. And Amy, thank you for watching at Media Mundo. I appreciate it. Lou, the X is where the National Hurricane Center has put the center of circulation for the potential tropical development area. The center is actually right over Florida as we speak, and then you see that it has this line here. So what the National Hurricane Center is saying is, here's where the center is, but we don't expect it to try and develop until it gets here. But that's where it's presently located. So great question. This is going to be from the National Hurricane Center. I've just got this tropical layer on, but this is why we're getting all of this activity in Central Florida right now, because there is the spin and the lift in the atmosphere helping to promote all of these tropical downpours. But great question. Hey, Twins Mama, how you doing? Will the Alafay area be dry by tomorrow morning? Again, would I expect there to be drier hours in the morning? Yes. Is there going to be a lot of dry to talk about in the coming days? No, I don't. Again, you'll probably squeeze out drier hours between, 7 and noon. But once we get a little bit more heat of the day, it's going to get wet and stormy again. And that could be at all hours. There will probably be some rain around at daybreak tomorrow morning. I don't expect it to be completely dry. So, and I appreciate you saying that too, Twins Mama. Again, I'll say it till I turn blue. I just, need you guys to understand the coverage of the rain is going to be extremely significant the next couple of days. A lot of this, right? Is it going to be completely wiping out your plans? Probably not. Is there going to be interruptions to your plans, especially if you have plans to be outside for prolonged periods? Probably, right? You want to head to the beach tomorrow or Saturday. Is it going to be the best weather? Absolutely not, right? What can you tolerate? That's totally up to you. I'm never going to tell you what you should do vacation plan wise or heading to the beach plan wise, but you get the idea of what I'm talking about and the impactful weather I expect. A little bit of lightning here from Winter Garden. That's why you saw a little flash on the camera there. Again, just some spinning little clouds. So we talked about the scary looking clouds moving here. They're moving into the Disney area right now. So this is kind of spreading into southwest sides of Orange County towards the attractions as we speak. And again, back off to the east, Conway is looking better. All right. Since a lot of you are tuning in, and I appreciate that, and it's the holiday weekend again, I want to get back over real quick to the HRRR model. I'm going to loop this up one more time for you guys so everyone can see what we're talking about here. And again, I think this model has about the best handle on it. So again, that's the area of development from the Hurricane Center, which will change at all points in time, as it moves away. But this is what is expected here. And again, if you see that behind me, ignore it. I'm working with the developer to have those test systems go away because I don't want them. But you can clearly see the spin, guys. And this is by Saturday afternoon, right? So between now and Saturday afternoon, just waves of rain, tropical downpours, gusty winds along the coast, 70, 80, 90% chance for showers. Again, not an all-day shield of rain, but very widespread, up and down I-95. It might actually be even slightly worse towards Georgia and the Carolinas, especially towards the end of the weekend, because this low, if it develops here, it's going to be closer to Myrtle Beach and Charleston and Savannah and OBX, and it'll be a little bit farther away from us. So Sunday, late Saturday into Sunday, it might be more impactful for the coastline because of the wind, right? And maybe we dry out a bit because we're on the west side and we get the north winds. Especially if this thing wraps up. You actually, would expect potentially a little bit drier air to sneak in on the west side if we actually can spin this up a little bit more. Same model, HRRR model. Going to show you the winds and the arrows. Of course, just your wind direction. Might take just 1 second for it to fully load up here. We had it loaded up earlier, but it takes just a second for it to fully get going. So again, take just a second. You can clearly see that as we get into late tomorrow and Saturday, you do have at least a tropical depression here on the HRRR model, if not even a tropical storm. The winds on the north side of this, and these are sustained winds, by the way, are over 40 miles an hour. So that would support tropical storm status. You'd get Chantal. Again, for our East Coast, tomorrow the winds are out of the southwest or out of the west. As this wraps up late tomorrow into Saturday, you start to get more of a north wind. And that north wind really cranks in beginning early on Saturday. Sustained winds along the coast, 15 to 20 plus miles an hour. So boaters, beachgoers, just be aware of that. Things are going to be churned up. Please, 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 if you're going to the beaches, check in with the local lifeguards. Things constantly change along the coast and the beaches. I can't give you any broad, forecast for the beaches because the beaches are very area dependent as to the rip current risk and just how they're going to be churned up by a system developing like this. But it's not a fantastic forecast. You guys get the idea. More of my diet green tea from Publix. I think we get Publix as a sponsor, drinking the green tea. I'm drinking out of my Lean Law tumbler, and they are a sponsor, and I appreciate them. And you want more information on anything that can help you out with your insurance claims, go to leanonmelaw.com. Look, it's storm season, guys, and we don't like to think about it, but every so often we get storms that cause some damage, and they can help you guys out. So if that's the case, or you want to check them out, go to leanonmelaw.com, and we appreciate them. But this is pretty significant at the end of the run here, right? I mean, that's a pretty significant spin, and all of those whites are going to be winds of over 40 miles an hour, and these are sustained, by the way. If I bring this back out, again, I can point query these. So you're just over 40 miles an hour, and all you got to get to 39, and you're going to have a tropical storm. Now, it's not all four quadrants, because this is just kind of the beginning of it really wrapping up. But, you know, that would put you in tropical storm status. By the way, the Bahamas are going to get a south wind, and they're going to get hammered too. Gusts. Yeah. No, not on the vector, though. Let's take that off. All right, so these are going to be max winds. Let me just make sure there's not a, oh, there is a gust. You know what? Ooh, that is, so this would be what is the max 10-meter wind at the surface. Just has more of those 40s. But there you go. I mean, Jacksonville, Brunswick, gusts. This is one I wanted to show you guys too. Same model, her model. We'll let that loop up for a second. Again, appreciate you guys tuning in. If you haven't already, thanks for doing me a really quick favor and hit that like button right now. It really helps out the channel more than you think. If you're watching and you haven't subscribed and you want these latest forecasts across Central Florida, again, this is a live only channel. I'm only on when there's impactful weather. I do normally do a Monday and Friday show at 1 o'clock that you guys can tune in for live, and many of you who are in the chat do that, or you can watch it in the recorded version, I call it. The stream becomes a recorded video under the live tab of the CFLW channel, which you can watch at your leisure. The Monday show covers kind of Monday and the week ahead. Friday has Friday and the weekend, but that's just to give you guys a heads up to what I expect for us. So you guys have an idea of, you know, whether I think the storm's going to arrive Tuesday, Wednesday, or whatever. But when there's actual impactful weather occurring in Central Florida, I come on live and I cover that for you guys. Now, this will obviously include the tropics. If you guys were one of the original subscribers last year, you know, I covered Hurricanes Helene and Milton live on this channel. So anytime that there's any kind of tropical threat to us here in Florida, you know, I'll be covering this live and obviously covering the wet season and the daily sea breeze storms for you guys. So my suggestion is to have the all notifications on. That's the bell symbol that you guys see. So if you click the subscribe button, you'll be a subscriber to the channel. But if you want to know when I'm on live, hit that bell button and hit all notifications. You're not going to get inundated with notifications from the channel because I'm only going to go on live when there's something to talk about, so you guys know it's of interest. So on the Her bottle, we do have wind gusts on the north side at that same time frame, right around 50 to 55 miles an hour. So that would be your sustained 40, gusts to 55. If we back this up, you can see those north winds start to curly Q in, right? And so along our east coast, your winds are going to be right around 20. So the interesting thing is that there's not going to be a lot of gusts, because our sustained winds on the Her model were in the upper teens to the low 20s, and there's not much of a difference here in the model with gusts. So basically staying about the same. So late tomorrow and into Saturday, if you're along the area beaches, you're going to probably experience a pretty solid 15 to 20 mile an hour wind. That's what I would expect. But you can see that wrap it up pretty good there too. Okay. And again, if you're just tuning in, it's a 50% chance, a 60% chance of development right now. Well, I'm not interested in that Loftman one anymore. I don't know why that's on the screen. Anywho, all right. So we've been on now for a little while, haven't we? We have been on for about an hour and 15 minutes. And again, appreciate you guys tuning in. I was always going to go ahead and do a stream this evening, because I'm not going to be doing the Friday show tomorrow, because a lot of you are going to be out and about and enjoying your 4th. And, you know, there's an opportunity that I might have to come back on live tomorrow anyway. But I wanted to jump on now because I thought this was a great time frame to discuss the impactful weather that I expected for the 4th of July weekend here in Central Florida before everyone kind of heads out either later tonight or tomorrow, and might be a little bit more incommunicado for the rest of the weekend. But again, I encourage you to stay weather aware for any outdoor plans through Sunday. They're going to get a lot of stormy conditions for us, and it's just one of those things. All right. You got it, Amy. Thank you. Does anyone have any specific questions for me with everything that we've covered? Again, tropical system developing right over our heads, moving off of our east coast, widespread showers and storms and tropical downpours. We've had flood advisories to the max here. All of these areas are currently under flood advisories. And again, that's kind of like, hey, a heads up, we've had locally heavy rainfall. Some flooding is a potential in these spots. So, all of these areas, including Orlando, under flood advisories at this point in time. We've got one till 8:15 for portions of Orange County. It's just an idea. And again, when you average this or you add these up, you get 3.5 to 5.5 inches of rain for downtown, OIA, Conway, Oak Ridge, Belle Isle, Pine Castle, Lake Nona, Hunters Creek, Lake Hart, Dr. Phillips, Edgewood, Taft, South Chase, Meadowwoods, Sky Lake, Holden Heights, Williamsburg, Tangelo Park. Really solid chunk right here. Even Sanford, which hasn't had as much rain, still under a flood advisory. I wouldn't expect Sanford to have a lot of problems. But again, minor flooding. Again, in total there, a couple of spots, 4 to 6.5 inches of rain. So there you go. Hi, Sean. How you doing? Great question. Sean wants to know what I expect for hurricane season. Generally speaking, what I expect is, and I want to know why. Why is this not clearing off? Hang on one second. I don't care. Well, maybe Laughlин's just going to stay there till 9:10. I have no idea why. We just lost power briefly, but you guys shouldn't have noticed even a drop here because we do have battery backup. But just to let you know, I think everything's still on and fine. But there's a lot of lightning going on in portions of Central Florida, especially where I live right now. Sean, to answer your question, nothing that I have seen says that it's going to be a below average season, right? I think at best we squeak out an average season and get named storms in the mid-teens. I think more than likely we're going to end up getting named storms that'll probably, unfortunately, be in the high teens. Hopefully no more than that. Remember, guys, we've already had 2 named storms in June, and it was really quiet, right? Now look, they were very marginal storms, especially, oh, Jesus. Barry, it was Ashley? What was it? What was the A-name storm? I tell you, I have PTSD. I forget this stuff when I'm done. It was Andrea, right? It was Andrea. Someone tell me in the chat I'm right and that it was Andrea. I know it was Barry. The A-name storm lasted 12 hours, and the Hurricane Center either should have made it a storm 36 hours before that or never made it a storm because it was always moving into cooler waters of the north central Atlantic. Barry became a tropical storm just before landfall in Mexico. So we did get 2 named storms in June, despite the fact that it was pretty darn quiet. All right. So we've already ripped off 2. Chantal could easily be the 3rd here coming up in this area within the next 36 hours. Twins Mama, thank you very much. Got all the notifications on. Don't miss out because you give amazing coverage. Well, thank you for saying that, Twins Mama. I appreciate it. Let's go back out to our cameras. We haven't checked those out in a while, and I can tell you the Winter Garden camera, it's a nasty shot. So let's take a live look there. And again, if you guys are just tuning in, appreciate you doing so. You are watching CFLW's live coverage of the storms here with our area of tropical development, basically right over Central Florida. But again, I wanted to come on live for you guys this evening, regardless of how bad the weather was going to be in terms of any severe storms, and just talk about what I expected to see for the weekend ahead, because it's such an important weekend. It's obviously one of the busiest weekends of the entire year to be outside, and we live in Florida, or we're traveling to Florida, or we're going to be along the East Coast somewhere, and we want to enjoy it. And unfortunately, Mother Nature is kind of poo-pooing on some of those plans. Again, it's not going to be a washout, but is this a lot of the bulk of the forecast between now and at least Sunday afternoon? Yeah, it is. You're welcome, Sean, and I appreciate you dropping in and saying hi. Again, just like Sean, any specific question you have, both Seans, drop it in and asking about things. Come on in. That's why I'm here. That's why I love the interaction. That's why I do this channel. So you guys can talk to me and ask me questions on the fly, right? It's a big upgrade from television where it's just a one-sided conversation. You guys want to drop in and ask me a specific question, do it. I was on TV for 35 years, 25 years. Jesus, I'm not that old. And that was always one thing that, you know, I was like, man, am I doing what the viewer wanted? Am I answering the questions that the viewer's asking? That all goes away with the digital platform. You guys can drop it in the comment section below. I literally have a tablet just off screen. I'm looking at the chat right now, and I'm happy to answer those questions. So take advantage of it is what I'm saying. You got a specific question, let me know. See who's getting any worse here in the Disney area? Yep, here it comes. So again, it's all played out as we expected, right? We saw the thunderstorm move into Winter Garden. It was moving to the south, and now it's reached Lake Buena Vista. Basically just dropped south on 429 and moved into southwest sides of Orange County. So now there's that heavier rain over Lake Buena Vista. And again, this camera is just 1 mile from the Magic Kingdom. When we are looking back to the Disney property from this camera, it's about as close as you can get. You can literally, you know, stone's throw to the Magic Kingdom. And you saw a little bit of lightning there as well. So not fantastic for Epcot, SeaWorld, Universal, Disney at this point in time. Folks are going to be indoors and letting this storm move through. It's not going to last forever. I'm sure the fireworks displays will go off just fine, potentially some of them delayed. I don't have the full schedule of the fireworks displays. And of course, this time of the year, sunset is still, you know, we're not getting dark until 9 o'clock or after. So, you know, I do feel pretty good about the fireworks displays here as long as we don't pick up any additional, you know, downpours, which is not out of the question. Again, we're not just watching one line of storms moving through, but this leading edge is not going to last forever. So hopefully a little bit of rain here in the area, but that would be about it. Live look outside again to Winter Garden. And again, you can just see those lower base clouds moving through. More light to moderate rain, but still a lot of lightning in Winter Garden. And that's, again, the western side of Orange County. This camera is looking west, so we're looking back into Lake County. And again, we're getting a little bit closer to the sunset hour. So, you know, along the horizon there, we get a little bit in the way of, and I can okay. Hopefully I pop back up. I do. All right. Excellent. Twins mama, I'm Andre and I missed my storm. LOL. Gotcha. Listen, I had both my wife and my mother-in-law as named storms last year. That was fun. To be talking about, oh, by the way, here comes those named storms. And you never want them to be significant because you don't want them to be known. You know, sometimes that name can become infamous, right? You know, like Dorian, you know, and, you know, other storms of that fashion, you know, ones that get retired. I mean, you know, there's plenty of them, you know, that we've had in our past, but you don't really kind of want to be associated with that. But look, they got to name them something. And we're running, I almost feel like we're running out of name storms at the beginning of the alphabet because obviously they're the most prolific. And especially, look, ABC storms sometimes are strong like Andrew. Sometimes they're weaker, it just depends. And then you get kind of into those middle letters as we get into August and September and October when those middle letter ones, you know, your F's, G's, and H's, and, you know, those develop. And those could be the storms that really are strong. They get retired more often, more frequently. And some of those letters don't have a ton of names associated with them or attached to them, right? There are certain letters of the alphabet where there's a lot more common names to run through. I feel like some of the letters we're really grasping at straws at this point in time. I don't know what it's the World Meteorological Organization, by the way, which names the storms and decides which storm is going to be retired, which ones aren't going to be, you know, as well. So again, this line is right over Dr. Phillips, Hamlin, Lake Butler, and then there's Lake Buena Vista, and you can see that all tracking off towards the south at this point in time. Hey, Randy, how you doing, man? Good to see you. The Halloween Gallery in the house. Work at Disney, live behind Magic Kingdom. Fireworks at 9 and 9:20 at Epcot Magic Kingdom tonight and tomorrow. Awesome. Thank you for that information, the Halloween Gallery. Appreciate that. And again, that camera, pretty close to where you live. Again, it's, I believe it is north of the Magic Kingdom, as I think it should be, right? Because that's where most of the neighborhoods are. But I know that literally you draw a line, you're 1 mile from the Magic Kingdom and the Disney property on the north side. So appreciate that. Hey, Randy, thank you very much for saying that as well. Again, you guys have some specific questions. I appreciate you jumping on into the comments and letting me know. Again, we're live. I was going to come on live anyway, but I saw these storms pulsing up and I wanted to jump on and talk about those and then just discuss the overall very active forecast for the Halloween weekend, because I looked at the Halloween Gallery for the 4th of July weekend. It's going to be wet. It's going to be stormy, guys. That's not going to change, unfortunately, here if you have any plans. Go back over to the visible satellite imagery real fast for you as well. Throw on the radar data for you there too. So if you're just tuning in, now the spin, the X marks the spot from the Hurricane Center was here, but that was their earlier update. I think we're starting to see this spin beginning to emerge off of the East Coast already, right? And you can kind of see now that there's a little bit more north to south movement of the showers and storms across our peninsula in association with getting on the backside of this. And you also see that this has picked up a little bit too, right? Now the orange area, all that is the potential development area from the Hurricane Center. So I'll take that off. 60% chance, at least the last time I checked. And if there's another update from the Hurricane Center, you guys let me know, but I don't think we're going to get one. Tons of flooding. Helene, Milton, and Beryl, by the way. Helene, Milton, and Beryl were all retired last year. It's still a 60% chance the next 7 days, which is really the next 3 or 4. And now we're up to a 30% chance in just the next 48 hours. And again, a hurricane reconnaissance aircraft is scheduled to start to investigate this beginning tomorrow, because now the circulation will be offshore. And that's when we should start to see things wrap up. But you can just see all of this moisture in a broad view here. Let me do this real quick again. We have that test area. If we go out to the broad view here, you can see that it's already tapping into moisture along the South Carolina coastline, Georgia, back to Jacksonville. A tremendous amount of rain actually south too. Very covered up I-95. It would be a great drive. Imagine trying to go from Orlando to Miami right now or vice versa. You know, even the West Coast is starting to see, you know, the interesting thing is the West Coast still has an onshore wind. So they're pulling in some moisture from the Eastern Gulf, and this is all aiding in. What could be very interesting, to be quite honest here, is, you know, this has come down in intensity. That line was stronger at the 6 o'clock hour, but, you know, as it bumps into these west winds, could there be a little bit more of a flare up here over East Citrus and Hernando and Sumter and inland sides of Pasco County? Really here, if we stop this, and I was just kind of riffing, but you can see that right there. The lightning count has gone back up again in these areas. Floral City, Bushnell, not major populated areas. My grandparents lived in Floral City, though, for a long time, so I know the area well. Down I-75 to Bushnell, showers beginning to break out over Spring Hill. So Chessie, you might be getting in a little bit of that rain as well pretty soon. All right. Got about 90 people here, and I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you guys have any more specific questions, let me know. And then we'll talk about what's going to be happening here for the weekend. All right, so we're going to jump into it. Been on for about an hour and a half. Again, I'm not expecting the activity that we see right here to pulse up and become severe. I just want to drop off the composite radar. Let me just go back to this, actually. So we're not going to have to worry about, at this point in time, you know, strong storms, severe storms, tornado threat really doesn't look to be in existence right now. The wind profiles in the low levels of the atmosphere just aren't very strong. They're not going to be supporting that, generally speaking, just bringing on our wind gusts just to make sure we didn't have any thunderstorm wind gusts that, approach the 40 to 50, but so far we're looking pretty good. This activity is moving southwest. Look, there's a lot more rain to come. It's going to be a wet, stormy weekend. There's not going to be too many dry hours across most of Central Florida, Florida in general, the eastern coastline, all the way up into the Carolinas for the weekend ahead. Is it going to be a complete washout? I don't think so, but is there going to be a lot more rain than what we would typically see in the sea breeze pattern for the normal 4th of July weekend? Yes, right? Could that again delay or impact fireworks or beach going or anything like that? I think for sure the beaches are going to be impacted because of all the wind that I expect. Now, coverage-wise, I'm going to be monitoring the situation all weekend long, obviously, right? If storms pulse up and they become strong to severe, or we just have general impactful weather, I'll jump back on. So have those notifications on so you know when I'm on. I'm not going to be doing the Friday show tomorrow at 1 o'clock because this kind of covered that. And I want you guys to know that when I jump on anytime over the next 3 days, it's because we're tracking storms that are of importance. If this becomes a depression or a tropical storm, which now is better than a 50-50 chance, it's really about an 80% chance on the European model for a depression and 50-50 for a tropical storm. And again, Chantal is the next name. If that develops, and I think that there's an opportunity that it could still bring us some impacts, I'll probably jump on live with an update for that as well. But again, that would occur sometime over the weekend regardless. So, that's what I'm going to be monitoring. You guys go out and have a fantastic weekend. NWS Miami Radio is still down. Yeah, man, I know. The last time I checked, Mike, it was, and so thanks for that update. I hadn't looked in a little bit, but yeah, there's some outages and on the radio side of things. Thankfully, this system is not going to be crazy impactful for Miami in a tropical sense, but again, they're going to get as much rain and wind down the East Coast all the way to Miami, Fort Lauderdale. Northern sides of the Bahamas are going to get hammered again because ultimately, as this system pulls to the north, all those winds are going to be turning out of the south, and that's just going to bring an ample amount of moisture into the atmosphere in that area, right? And again, you can almost kind of see that broad spin right there. All right, friends, I appreciate you guys so much. You had here for about 24 hours silence. Yeah, can you get Key West, Mike, out of that one? I mean, I think that's going to be your next Weather Service office, right? Key West. Probably can dial it in. You might even be able to pick up Melbourne as well. But yeah, it's not good if Miami's your home one and you're still getting silence. I hope that all of those outages are back online as we get deeper into hurricane season. All right, friends, I think it's going to do it for the live stream. Please remember that CFLW is sponsored by the Lean Law Firm of Central Florida. Right here, logo on your screen, your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. Listen, they cover the entire state of Florida. So from the Panhandle to the Florida Keys, storm moves through, you get hail damage, wind damage, hurricane damage, heck, you've had a burst pipe. They can walk you through every step of the insurance claim process. They do offer free consultation and policy reviews. You want to support someone who supports the channel, check them out, Bobby Lean and the team at leanonmelaw.com if you would like more information. Friends, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for taking a quick second and liking and subscribing to the channel. I will keep you guys up to date if weather becomes more impactful over the weekend, but just get prepared for a very wet, very stormy, very windy 4th of July forecast along our area beaches and in inland locations as this tropical system looks to spin up, become a tropical depression, or maybe even a tropical storm as we get into late tomorrow. Could even happen as early as tomorrow evening, but a better chance on Saturday to get potentially the third named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season. I'll keep you updated. Have a great one, friends, until I see you next, which could be soon. If I don't see you on the 4th, have a great, happy, safe 4th, but I'm sure I'll see you guys sooner than later. Take care.
you.